What's up, everybody? Big Herc 916, getting down fresh out. You tuned into another edition, and I told you guys I'm gonna be bringing on a lot more military veterans on the channel. We're doing a little transition, even though I still have people who have done time in prison, but I want to give props to our military because I think they're an undervalued area in our culture that aren't getting enough respect as far as the voice out there. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I'm about to get into it with my man Pete. This guy, he's been around the world, retired Marines, Raider. This guy is the real deal, and he's got some great input. Pete, you know, looking at what's going on right now in the Middle East with Israel and Hamas, and you know the Palestinians there on the Gaza Strip, and then everything going on with with Egypt being right there and Iran. What do you see the political solution, if there is one? Because a lot of people here try to come in and say this and that, but they don't know the history, and then how deeply rooted the religious split is over there.
So I don't know that there is a political solution. I think especially from like the Hamas, like the Palestinian side, where that's an entire ideology where these people have been oppressed for their entire life.
Yeah.
And then if you think about, like, a good term is like the generational warfare, where you might have been a young Palestinian child and your father was killed by the IDF for whatever reason, right? It just as a hypothetical. Your whole thing now is that immediate hatred and want for revenge, right? So let's say that guy had 5 sons. Now all 5 of those sons are going to want to just perpetuate that cycle and fight for that. I think as far as from like the geopolitical standpoint, like, we should stay out of it. You know, here we are, we're spread super thin. Our military isn't making recruiting goals. Just domestically, we're not doing well with our own border security, everything else, but we're so worried about this world global police thing. Like, let them kind of sort it out. You know, there's enough. NATO's right there, the EU, there's other big countries in that region that could maybe help, but just I don't see it going well. I think it's going to be a long conflict.
Do you think if Trump was in office, that it would be a different situation right now, since he had kind of had that ceasefire and that whole peace thing going on with Saudi Arabia there?
Dude, they had the Abraham Accords.
Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 like very strict Muslim nations that were like, hey, we're cool. If we can kind of get into some of this trade, we'll keep it stable, we'll keep it mellow, like we won't mess with Israel. But I think that's some of the stuff that like the machine, right, that they don't want Trump in office because that guy's not messing around. And I think that nothing happened the whole time he was in, right? With
More
Israel.
respect.
Yeah. So,
you know what, too? I don't mean to cut you off, but I thought about something else that, dude, you know what? What you just said with the Abraham Accords, think about this, too, like with who we have in office right now and what's supposed to go into play in January, even though it's not going to really, it's still going to, we're still going to have our dollar, but BRICS. Mm-hmm. Brazil, Russia, India, China, Egypt now is coming into that. I think with South Africa, and there is a couple other countries coming in there. And if you look at any time major trade was being disrupted with a currency that wasn't the petrodollar, whether it be Saddam Hussein with oil, Omar Gaddafi when he's trying to do a currency. Some of these other countries who kind of tried to break away, Venezuela, which is, was one of the richest, and now it's straight shit, banana republic government. All these things happen, so it's kind of like almost like when you look at like, dude, look what we got to just, because it's all tied into, at the end of the day, people get all emotional and they think, oh, they use religion as a front behind the geopolitical resources that are being basically behind the scenes excavated. They're trying to control, whether it be oil, whether it be uranium, whether it be cobalt, whatever the case may be. In some places it's having clean water, like people don't understand, like Omar Gaddafi, and like Liberia, Lebanon, and remember they blew up that whole water. They said he had missiles down there, but they blew up his pipeline for water, and they were trying. It's going to provide water to like 4 or 5 neighboring countries.
Yep. And think about what that does for an entire civilization. Now we have fresh water. Now we can focus on this. Now we can build infrastructure. Now we can do things. Now we can come out of the Stone Age. How much of your day was spent going to just get water? You know what I mean? And it's like, nope, we're not going to allow it. Oh, 100%. And they're not going to allow it, right? And so, man, I don't see it going well. I think what is also interesting, too, just like the big picture, we're going into an election year, right? And that whole administration looks so horribly weak with Afghanistan. This is just my own opinion, this could be one of those like, hey, we're going to be strong. We're going to be big, hard military. We're going to go in. We're going to support. We're going to get troops on the ground. And it's for what, you know? But
you know, you said it's something that a lot of people, you know, maybe went over their head when you talk about like the recruiting, how down the recruiting is, and now they're talking about recruiting women now and men, and you talking about all these people who are talking all this high power shit, and now talking about going to have to fight, and you know, all this, you know, trying to worry about what sex. Don't nobody. This shit is serious. It ain't. That shit is. Nobody cares about that shit over there. Mm-hmm. You know, and you guys who felt like you're living this cushy life, and you want to, you know, have this certain mind frame, and you're entitled to this and that. Shit starts getting serious, and you start talking about now you have to go off and you know, whether you want to believe it or not everybody makes it home. A lot of people don't want to think about that, man. They see oh man, I'm coming home. Who knows what the hell's, you know? Because if you don't get a bomb dropped on you, could be some type of poisonous gases, biological warfare.
Yeah.
They drop shit from the air, you don't even see it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at all the drone footage coming out of Russia and Ukraine. You know what I mean? Dudes are just walking around. You don't hear this drone, and just all of a sudden, woof, you're in pieces. I think it's something. It's only like 30% of the American population is like fit for military service now. And so, I mean, just imagine what that looks like. That's a whole other.
Well, they said 70% of the military is out of shape.
Yeah.
You know, they lowered the push-up standard, pull-up standard. They lowered the mile time. You know, you got kids now. I know a friend of mine was telling me about somebody they knew that were trying to, and the kid had like basically man boobs. Mm-hmm. He couldn't run a mile, couldn't climb over this table right here.
Yeah,
that's not even knee high. You know, couldn't even make it over the table.
Yeah.
Couldn't go underneath the table.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, how do you expect these guys to do anything?
Yeah, it's combat, like actual gunfighting it's really fun. It's a lot of fun. It's like a good adrenaline boost. But then when you're in it and when it's starting to go south, people have no idea what level of training mentally. It goes back to what we talked about earlier, like that mental toughness and fortitude to stay in there. When you're being shot at, to continue to move forward to the guys that are trying to kill you, people have no idea. And I think it's not a video game. It's not a video game when you see somebody get shot in the head or people getting blown in half, and that's what's going to kind of happen. You know, there's no sugarcoating any of that.
Half the people, man, they can't even handle being told that that this is an apple, not an orange.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you can handle that, if you're blowing up off of that, you're arguing over that. How are you going to be in a combat situation?
Yeah. Dude, we would always joke. So we'd be out at some, you know, special ops camp, hanging out at the FOB. It's a forward operating base. And sometimes we'd have to go back to the big camps. They always had the best chow. So you'd go in and have chow. Every once in a while, rockets would start coming in. So all the sirens would go off. And you'd see all the guys and gals that weren't used to artillery coming in. Everybody would run, screaming for cover. And everybody else would just be sitting there looking around. And you're like, that dude left. I'm going to take that. Cool. Just, you know, go. And but that's a real thing because it's
real.
I think it's something like maybe 5, maybe 10% of U.S. troops that go overseas actually engage the enemy, and that's not taking away anything from the guys and gals that go over there and fix trucks and fix airplanes and do all the other stuff. But the actual like guy on the ground fighting and killing the enemy, it's a very small percentage of the military.
Well, it's that mentality. Like as far as a go-getter, it's almost like when you see like people who are in gangs, most of the guys are just in it to hang out.
Yeah.
They're the guys who drink beer. He's the guy who always, he's always clowning, dancing. Then you got some killers.
Yeah.
They're quiet. Those guys are like, they're on some other time. They're just, it's a different makeup. So not everybody that's in the clique is about the business. They're there, they're down, but it's just a certain type of characteristic for a person who's, whether it be a Marine Raider, Green Beret, Navy SEAL, or just, Special Forces, you know, people who are willing to like really, like you said, you know, go after, you know, a night on a mission and just be on some different time. A lot of people, especially like, you know, nowadays, and how they've, you know, created this whole thing about like, you know, first it was, oh, the bullying and this and that. They can't handle somebody just calling them a name.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, you're crying because somebody called you a name?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yep. And then you expect that kid to eventually go fight, and that's not going to happen.
No, I don't see it happening. I mean, between, you know, so we got that going on with Israel, and they're talking about like, you know, the Hamas, and then it's, you know, I just saw where they stormed the Capitol, but they were just doing a protest, or one of the buildings.
Yeah, not an insurrection.
No, it's not insurrection.
They arrested like 150 people. Not an insurrection, just a peaceful protest. Very different. Yeah. Yep. And some of those dudes are still in prison too, from that January 6th stuff. Are still in prison.
Dude, they got the one guy, and I don't know him, but the one guy, he wasn't even there. He got 18 years. He wasn't even there. One of the guys who wasn't, he sent the text.
Yeah.
He wasn't even there.
Yeah.
And then I was listening to a guy the other day. He said on this side they had the cameras filming right on the Capitol, and they made it seem like this, but then we really seen that they just walked in. You know, people they stopped.
Yeah.
Did a prayer. Guy opened the door. But then on the other side of the Capitol building, they said there was cops everywhere, and they just were kicking it.
Yeah.
See, they didn't even show that. It wasn't no chaos or nothing. There were people just hanging out.
But that's why they didn't want that footage to get out. Because if you can control the narrative and you can control that information, you can control the whole message.
Is that why they just gave that gag order on Trump? Because they don't want him talking about any of this stuff like coming out.
They don't want him doing anything. They
Isn't
don't want
crazy,
that dude
bro?
doing anything.
And see, for somebody to say, well, I'm like, dude, think about it. If they're doing it, even if you don't agree, do you think that's right?
No. The amount of money that dude has, imagine if they start going after like the average guy.
Dude, you don't stand a chance.
Done, dude.
You're done.
Yeah.
You don't stand a chance.
Yep. But that's what they're doing. They're sending that message like, oh, hey, you want to represent this and protest that. You didn't even have to be there. You're going to go do 2 decades in prison. Have a nice life. Poof, and you're off. Right? The dude
That's
from Proud
crazy,
Boys,
man.
that's it. Like, what is that? That is telling everybody else, like, hey, don't buck the system. Don't question it, because if you do, we're going to crush you. That's it. I think another one of the dudes got a solid 20. There's been a handful of people getting some like very serious time.
Well, the one guy, remember they went and cracked the safe open? He wasn't even there. He went and cracked the safe open, contacted the safe, opened the safe. The guy was like, dude, you know, got him trying to give him. I'm like, what the? Dude, it's insane, man. It's insane. I'm like, you for real?
Yeah. Well, and you start to see too, like if you've been paying attention in Canada, now they're wanting to control what you can say on a podcast. And
They want
to look at your money.
Trudeau
and now they got your bank accounts. And now like.
Well, they did it. What they froze the bank account. Remember the truckers in Canada who were protesting, and how they froze those guys' bank accounts, and all they were doing with a free protest, you know, talking about the government.
Mm-hmm. They were freezing people's bank accounts that donated just to the protest. So think about that. And that's what other people, you're like, oh, that's in another country. That ain't going to happen here. And you're like, dude, it's coming, because they're all on the same team. This whole World Economic Forum, they all sit down at the same table with the same people on the same plan. And it's starting to, you'll see it happen in Australia, and then New Zealand, and then Canada. And then slowly it starts to permeate and starts to happen here.
But what that does, though, is that at the same time, you got to remember, it's just like almost like in a facility, like, dude, literally, if you got 300 people trying to control 5,000, if those people say, you know, we're done with it, it's done. Mm-hmm. See, it's not like they're as powerful, you know, it's really this, you know, we're over, you guys are out.
Yeah.
Oh, we got all money, we don't care. Yeah. You're out.
Yeah.
It doesn't, like, they've done it before. Remember back in the day, they used to take kings and queens that were, they would string them up, bro. Yeah. Yep. They would have all the money in gold, and then after a while, the soldier's like, hold on, you're right.
Yeah.
People would come with the farmers with the little pitchforks and remember the torches, and dude, they would get there. They'd string up the whole royal family.
Yeah.
You know?
But this is probably unfair not having been in that situation, but look at like California prisons. If we just keep all this racial stuff going on, they're never going to look at the staff and be like, dude, what are they doing? Like, we're not going to let them do that. But everybody else is worried. I can't talk to that guy. I can't sit next to this guy. I can't do this, can't do that. And it seems like the staff can kind of just do whatever they want.
They are able to do that too, and that's one of the reasons why they keep the prisons in that situation. And when the prisons were trying to kind of do something, what they did, okay, we're going to now mix it and put all the guys who are dropouts and keep it destabilized again. So they start putting people in who they knew were destabilize the yards and create more violence by design, because those people don't work there, but they're in You know, they're at the Capitol and they're like, oh, well, shit, we don't care. You know, they're so far removed, it doesn't matter to them. They're making, you know, high six figure, they don't care.
Yeah. But then that same experiment, hey, if we do this right, and now if we have crimes against Asians, and we have white supremacy, and we have the BLM, we have all these different things, it's the same thing. We're testing it in these small little ecosystems, and then we're putting it out to everybody.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Just to see how people will respond to it, not knowing if these people came together, bro, it'd be over.
It'd be over with.
It'd be over for
It'd
be over with.
Dude, think about it now. To like run for president, like how much money do you have to have? Do you remember? I think for the Democrats, for the DNC, they were well over like $10 billion just blown into the wind. Like I think Bloomberg spent over $9 billion just on himself. Like it was a significant amount of money. Like your average guy, like they've made it so unattainable now that unless you check all these wickets and do all of this for all these corporations,
do you think that more people like? Because I just saw where some of the very liberal like tech guys are trying to say, hey man, at first I had the Trump deranged syndrome, and I was like, but now I'm looking like, dude, hold on. There's some things now I'm looking at it different. There's like a couple of people are kind of waking up. They're like coming out slowly.
Yeah.
Like, hold on, man, this doesn't really make sense, you know. And they're kind of like backing up, you know. And I just seen where the guy who was the big donor for Harvard pulled his money out of Harvard, and he said, dude, we're done with the woke Victoria's Secret thing. We're going back to this.
Yeah.
You know, people are kind of getting fed up because one thing I tell people that when you swing the pendulum one way, it's got to come back the other way. It doesn't just stay on one side.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like that's gonna forever. Like, oh man, it's gonna be, dude. It's gonna go the other direction, and when it does, dude, you might not like that look.
Yeah, and I think we're heading there. Like to your point, because now everybody is affected with inflation. Taxes are going to keep going up, and we're just giving money away, and we're not taking care of our own people. And I think people are starting to finally see, like, you know, they said like once Trump's out of office, like the adults are going to be in charge, and we won't go to World War III. And it's like we're closer to a global war now.
Yeah, I agree.
Than we ever have been.
Well, look at like, you know, perfect example like is Chicago. They're still in the city.
Yeah.
Remember, and that black mayor, he was for the people, and they're like, dude, you wouldn't open a high school for us, but you're opening it for them.
Yeah.
And you got these people sleeping over here, and our kids is doing this. Chicago, people in New York.
Yep.
People are kind of like it's and you know, they say, hey, you voted for this, but they're looking at it now, and I think because of the information availability, they're like, we've been duped. More and more people, I think, are looking at it like, dude, we've been duped.
Yeah. Yep. And then more and more people are talking too.
Yeah.
Yep.
I agree. Hey, there you have it. Big Herc 916 getting down and fresh out. You tired of smelling like stanky butt, funky armpits? Wash your ass. Go to FreshOutSeries.com and pick you up a bar of soap.